Hi McKendree, it's Chef Julie from Wednesday Night Suppers. You know, we're all quarantined and I am as well, so I'm going to be making something that's one of my favorite dishes. And I know it's one of McKendree's favorite dishes because I've been told this countless times. You know, we all need a little comfort. So why don't we do the ultimate comfort dish, a chicken pot pie? Who doesn't like that? So let me first tell you what the ingredients are going to be. These are all lined up here and I'm going to explain this. In this pot, I already have 1 stick of butter, half a cup of chopped onion, and a half a cup of chopped celery. If you're not crazy about celery or onion, you can back off of that. But that's what I use. Then we're going to be adding in a half a cup of all-purpose flour. We're going to be making a roux, and that's the basis for our chicken pot pie. Essentially, it's a gravy. After we cook the flour into the butter, we're going to be adding in some chicken broth. If you're vegetarian, you can add in vegetable broth, and we'll talk about the chicken aspect in a minute. After that, we're also going to be adding in a half a cup of milk, or half and half. You can even use evaporated milk if that's something you have in your pantry and you don't have fresh milk in your refrigerator. That's perfectly acceptable for this. Now let's talk about the chicken. What I have here are 3 cups of chopped, cubed, cooked chicken. You can use whatever kind you like, a mixture of white meat or dark. I happen to have some boneless chicken breast in my freezer, so that's what I have today. You can use chicken off of a rotisserie chicken, which I think makes a really good chicken pie. And often at McKendree, I'll use part cubed white meat, and then I'll grab 2 or 3 rotisserie chickens to make our chicken pot pies at McKendree. You'll also want to put in some carrots, if you like those. This is 2 to 3 carrots. There's about a cup sliced and cooked already in some salted water. This is frozen green peas, about a cup of those. Now let's talk a little bit about if you're vegetarian and you want to make a vegetable pot pie. Just omit the chicken or turkey if you really want to make a turkey pot pie. That's perfectly good too. But omit that and add in extra vegetables. Mushrooms make fabulous vegetable pot pie. You can put some butternut squash, just whatever you like. Just substitute the chicken with the vegetables that you prefer. Now after we get all this thickened and good and gooey, we're going to be using ready-made pie crust as the basis and top for our chicken pot pie. If you don't have a pie crust, you can always use biscuits. Then we'll call it a chicken cobbler. But use the grands or a flaky biscuit, makes a good topping. You can also, of course, make your own biscuits or pie crust if you're so inclined to make your own. So let's get started with the chicken pot pie. What I have here is a half a stick of butter, the half cup of onion, and the half cup of celery. And I've already started working this, cooking it a little bit. You don't want it to get brown, but you do want it to be soft. This is going to impart a lot of flavor into the sauce or the gravy for our chicken pot pie. So I've got getting that back up to temperature. It's about ready. The vegetables have cooked for probably about 3 minutes and they are looking pretty good. Okay, I can smell that butter in those vegetables. So now it's time to add in the 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. This is going to thicken our roux, and we're going to give that a couple of minutes on medium to medium-high heat. We want to cook that flour taste out. If you just dump the flour in and don't let it cook for a minute, then your sauce is going to taste a little bit like raw flour. So we want to cook that. By the way, I added just a pinch of salt to the onions and celery. That's up to your discretion. So we're going to get that looking pretty good. It's starting to bubble around the edges a bit. And when it gets up to the temp that I think it is, which I think is now, we're going to add in 2.5 cups of chicken stock. Now it doesn't have to be homemade chicken stock. It can be what I've got here. It can be canned or carton. And so we're going with 2.5 cups. Of course, homemade chicken stock. Who's opposed to that? So if you got that, just add that on in. That's about 2.5 cups. I'm going to stir that in, incorporate that well. This is going to start to thicken in a while. Let that begin to thicken. And then I'm going to add in a half a cup of half and half. You can use whole milk, 2% milk. or canned evaporated milk. So we're going to give this a couple of minutes to thicken. All right, this is cooked for several minutes. See how thick and luscious that looks? I mean, that right there looks pretty good to me. Of course, we're going to gild the lily here. Let's put a little pepper in there. Fresh cracked is good. There you go. Stir that around. And now I'm going to add in the other things that make this chicken pie what it is. So, we're going to add in some chicken. There's one thing I want to say though, before we add these other ingredients, we need to taste it for the salt level. So I'm going to take a little taste. I don't think it needs anything else. I think it's perfect. So now we're going to add in the chicken. We're going to add in the carrots. I do like a lot of carrots. A little thunderstorm outside you might be hearing. Perfect day for chicken pot pie. And now I'm just going to stir that in. Now look at that. Who can resist that? I mean, this is really done at this point. If you just wanted to, you know, grab a fork and start eating that, I wouldn't blame you. But we're going to make it a little bit better by baking it in a crust. So let's get to the crust now. Now I'm using ready-made pie crust from the grocery store because it saves a ton of time, and really they're not very bad. So good cheat here on the ready-made pie crust. So this is what I've chosen to bake my pie in. Now you can bake it in a pie pan, you can bake it in a tin, you can bake it in a casserole dish. If you bake it in something that's a little more oblong shape, which is what we do at McKendree, we roll that pie crust to kind of simulate an oval or a square instead of a round. But I'm going to use my round because it's just simpler. But I am going to just thin it a little bit because I want that crust to get done on the bottom, and this accelerates that. So now we're going to transfer this crust into my pie pan. You have to fiddle with it just a little bit, and that's okay. You can either do like I'm doing here and fold it over just a bit, or you can cut those excess pieces off. It's going to shrink a little bit in the pan. So let's get that pie crust on the bottom. And now we're going to put the good stuff in there. So here's our filling. This is the time to check for salt and pepper levels. Or if you want to add a little parsley or something, this is the time to do that. So let's dump that in there. That looks really pretty yummy to me. Yeah, I don't know if I've met too many people that do not eat chicken pot pie. Now, your kids might balk a little bit at the peas or something. If you want to add in a different vegetable, you know what, if they like broccoli and they'll eat that, hide it in here instead of peas. But I'm pretty crazy about peas, and I force my children to become crazy about them as well. Alright, now we got to top it with the top crust because, hey, chicken pot pie is all about the crust if you ask me. So we've got another one of these. Once again, I'm gonna stretch this out. I just need it to cover the top. I'm gonna stretch it just a bit. You can get fancy with pie crust, but you know, we don't have to do that. And then this is gonna go right on the top here. Now we could, you know, we can do different things with it. We can tuck it in. I like this pie pan because it really fits just about right. All I have to do is just even it a little bit. Maybe for company I would work at it a little harder, but for us, we're all about comfort. We want it, and we want it quickly, so we want that pie. I'm just going to press to make sure edges are together. Now to make this pretty, make this pie crust even prettier, what I've done is I've gotten 1 egg and I've beaten it with about a tablespoon of water. And what I'm going to do now is just brush this pie crust. It's going to make it shiny and brown. You don't have to do this. You can also substitute some heavy cream brushed on top if you have that. But let's put that on there. This is going to come out looking pretty. Now the other thing we have to do with this pie is we need to vent it so the steam can come out. It needs to release a little bit of steam in the process. So, you know, we'll just do that a couple of places. Your kids can make faces in it if you want to let them do that. And then I like to put just a little bit of cracked pepper on top of my crust. That's just me. Okay, this is going to go in a 350-degree oven. And it's probably going to be 30 to 40 minutes. Really, the mixture of the pie is done. So what we're really working on now is getting the crust brown. I'm going to advise you to put the pie on the bottom rack of the oven because it gets that bottom done. And we're going to see what this looks like in about 40 minutes. Okay, it's been about 40, actually about 45 minutes in my oven. Your oven can vary. And I pulled this pie out. I think it's done. I could hear it was sizzling a little bit, bubbling a little bit. So I think the thing to do now is, let's take a dip of it out of there and see what she looks like. So, got a bowl here. Let's see what we've got. And this should give you, six servings or so, maybe a little less, depending on what kind of eaters you have. Look at that. That looks pretty doggone good. Got my peas, my carrots, my crust, my chicken. Everything you'll love in one dish. So here we go. You know what, cameraman? I'm sorry, but I'm going in on this. You'll have to get your portion later. It's really hot. Excellent. Really, the only thing you need to serve on the side of this is another helping of this. No, seriously, a salad, a vegetable, some green beans or broccoli. You don't need anything else, really. So I hope you enjoy. Stay safe out there. God's peace to you all.